All right, so here is a problem that's a little bit more complicated. And there are a couple reasons it's complicated. First off, before there were two branches, and this top branch was 1 out of 2, and the bottom branch was 1 out of 2. But that's not happening here because these represent marbles in a bag, and in the bag there are 8 green marbles and 4 red marbles. So that means there are a total of 12. So now the denominator for the first stage or the first event, this is the first thing that we do, our first action, that is going to be, we pick out of 12. So we know that the denominator here is 12. And also for this picking if we get a green, we also had 12 marbles to choose from. And we have to look here, 8 of our marbles were green, so we had an 8 out of 12 chance of getting this particular marble, and then 4 marbles were red. So then the second thing that makes this complicated is this part. Without looking, you reach into the bag and take out 1 marble, but then you don't return that marble to that bag. So this is probability without replacement, and then you reach out and take a second marble. So here in this first event, we had 12 marbles to choose from. But what's important to notice here is that in our second event, or the second stage of our experiment, if you want to say, you kept this marble out, whichever one it is. If you got green or red, you held it in your hand, and now there are only 11 in the bag. So for this second event, there are only 11 marbles for the second event. And so that's going to change the denominator of our probabilities. So here, when I've taken out, and I'm not talking about what's the probability of getting a green and then a green. I'm talking about, like, given this circumstance has happened, what's the probability of this happening? So the probability of getting this, well, there are only 11 marbles in the bag. And this is tricky because look what happened. I picked out a green and I held on to it. So now not only are there only 11 marbles in the bag, I have to subtract one of those 8 marbles because I have it in my hand. We did that with the Skittles, if you remember. So the numerator here is 8 minus 1 is 7. And all of these branches will have a denominator of 11 because there are 11 marbles in the bag. And for this red one, after I've picked a green, well, there are only 7 green ones, but that doesn't affect the red. There's still 4 red marbles in the bag. So I still have, it's a little bit more likely that I can get a red one now because there's still 4, but only a total of 11 marbles to choose from. And then I'll come up to this branch. Let's say we're going here and then here. So what's the chance of getting this marble? And again, this isn't the chance of getting a red and then another red one. This is just given the circumstance that's existing here, what's the probability of getting this red one? Well, I had 4 and I kept it. So now there are only 3 left. So just make sure that makes sense, even if you need to pause the video. 12 went to 11 because we kept a marble in our hands. 4 reds, I took 1 out, and now there are only 3 left in the bag. And then the last situation is this branch and then coming out to here. Well, what's the chance of getting this green one? And, this has happened. That's just fine. What's the chance of this green one happening now? Well, I didn't take a green one, so there's still 8 marbles. So it's a little bit more likely now. So that's really about as tricky as this gets. but you can see that that's a lot less intuitive. So if you need to, just stop the video or replay it and really make sure that makes sense before you go on.